Hello and welcome to The Point of Everything. My name is Eoghan O'Sullivan and I'm joined by my co-host. She doesn't think 3 hours of Bono and Joe Rogan together is enough. It's Cíara Byrne. Cíara, did you listen to all 3 hours of Bono on Joe Rogan this week?
No, I didn't listen to a single second. Did you?
No, I didn't. I saw that he was on and I saw that Elon Musk was giving out about what Bono was saying on it, and I was like, that's more
I'm
than
sure.
enough content from
I'm
that
sure whatever
podcast for
Bono
me.
was saying also was probably pretty mild in comparison to, to what he could be saying. So, not for me. No.
What have you been up to if you haven't been listening to Bono on Joe Rogan?
So, I have started a new job this week. So, I've been diving headfirst into the world of PR, which has been very fast paced and exciting. I also went to a gig. Have to shout out my brother here. He organised the whole thing. It was a fundraiser gig in the Spirit Store in Dundalk on Saturday, but it had an amazing turnout. It sold out like a week or two in advance, and it had the Mary Wallopers and Just Mustard and Jinx Lennon, icon of Dundalk, Jinx Lennon. If you don't know him, get to know him. And then my brother's band Inbow as well, playing some songs, which was a great gig altogether and for a very good cause.
Very good. Wow. All of the greats of Dundalk coming out
Mhm.
and representing, and you representing as well. Congrats on the new job as well. I don't know how we can top that gig though.
Tell me about your week.
Well, when we recorded last week, and this is the second episode that we're doing together, thanks if you listened to the first episode, and hopefully you'll keep listening going forward. I had gone to Villagers the day before we talked last week. It was the 10th anniversary of Darling Arithmetic, so Connor was doing 3 shows, and one of them was in the Helix. I won't go into the escapade of trying to get to the Helix, which is on the north side of Dublin at DCU, like the worst located venue in Dublin. It's
And
awful to get.
college, maybe. I can say as somebody who commuted to it for 3 years.
Oh man, but apart from that, it was a really, really nice show. It was just Connor and pianist, keyboardist, and really, really nice show. He's got another couple of gigs coming up, including When Next We Meet in Clonmel this weekend. So, and more shows over the summer as well besides. So if people want to get along to that, I would always recommend Villagers. I would always recommend going to see Connor, one of my favourite Irish artists of all time. And even though this was an anniversary show, looking back, and he did play all of Darling Arithmetic and he played some greatest hits as well, he's just so special. Such a great singer, songwriter, everything. And another singer, songwriter, everything that I got to see on Saturday was Panda Bear, who I think was playing his first show in Dublin in like 15 years or something like that. Somebody did message me saying that Panda Bear had played up in Belfast relatively recently, a couple of years ago. I don't remember hearing about that show, but he was playing in support of his new album Sinister Grift, which came out earlier this year and is one of the best Panda Bear albums ever. Panda Bear, in case you don't know, is Noah Lennox, who's also 1/3 of Animal Collective. They're just so consistent, both acts, Animal Collective and Panda Bear. There's just a new album every 2 years, let's say, between one of them. And this is the first time that all 3 members of Animal Collective have been on an album together. And the live show, I didn't know what it was going to be, but it was a full band performance. It was a 5-piece Button Factory. Busy night in Dublin. Forbidden Fruit was on elsewhere in Dublin, and Morrissey was on in the 3 Arena. Interesting that people are still going to Morrissey in 2025, but maybe I judge a little. I was going to say, but I don't judge, but maybe just a little bit I judge people who are going to see Morrissey in 2025. But it was a much calmer, quieter, relatively old crowd at Panda Bear, but I think it was just so good. He drew from pretty much everything that he's done over the past 15 years. He didn't go as far back as my favourite album, one of the best albums of the century so far. Ooh, big words, isn't it, to start the podcast? He didn't go back to Any Person Pitch, but it was still a really, really great rocking surf rock, kraut rock type of a show. I loved it. I thought it was so good. Okay, we get into the news.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of albums
A
announced
lot of
since we
albums,
last
yeah.
talked. Oh man, I'm not even going to try and name all of them, but I just picked out a couple that we might talk about. Altered Hours are a 5-piece from Cork who've been together for 15 years. Since about 2010, they've just announced that they're going to be releasing their 3rd album, self-titled, album on September 26th via Pizza Records, which is Dundalk based, I think,
It is
isn't it?
Dundalk, yeah. Just Mustard started out there, and there's another good few. I think Elephant is on Pizza as well. Good few Dundalk legends and the Altered Hours, so a Cork edition.
Yeah, Pizza always support great Irish acts, and yeah, delighted to see that Altered Hours have a new album in the offing. They released a new track this week called Lay There With You, which if people have seen them live in recent years, they might have heard that track and they might recognise that Altered Hours song. Harbours well for the album, which people can pre-order as well on Bandcamp. Big Thief, I don't think that we mentioned them last week, but it seems like we could probably mention them every episode that we do going forward, Cíara. They've got a new album coming out. It's called Double Infinity, out on 4AD on September 5th. So prolific, Adrienne Lenker, isn't she? And yeah, now this album. How excited are you for Big Thief? Are you a big fan?
I am a big fan of Big Thief. I actually listened to their new track today, and it's not coming to the top of my head at the moment, but it was gorgeous. And the album artwork, I think, is a bit different. It's like a bright green and black colored. It's very kind of light in the dark. I don't know what this album is gonna bring, but whatever it is, it's gonna be beautiful. Everything that Big Thief do and everything that Adrienne Lenker does is equal parts incredibly sad and incredibly beautiful. And I think you can see a lot of her stuff in both ways. So I'm very excited for the new Big Thief album.
The new track that they released this week is called Incomprehensible. So the album is called Double Infinity, but thankfully, from my perspective anyway, it's not a double album. It's only 9 tracks long. So it's not quite as much as we've gotten used to from Big Thief and Adrienne Lenker in recent times. I think their last album was the double album, wasn't it? Big Thief's last album. And she released a live album a couple of weeks ago, which is 40 plus songs long, which
That's too many.
Yeah, I've refused to listen to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a little bit from the blurb. It says, for 3 solid weeks, the trio, oh yeah, they're now a trio. They've lost a member since the last album. The trio would ride bicycles on frozen streets between Brooklyn and Manhattan, meeting in Powers Station's warm wood-panelled room. Together with a community of musicians, they would play for 9 hours a day, tracking together simultaneously, improvising arrangements and making collective discoveries. Kind of sounds like a proper job, doesn't it? 9 to 5 kind of a job. So yeah, I am looking forward to this one. And one more that I'm going to mark on my diary is Cate Le Bon's 7th album, Michelangelo Dying, is out September 26th on Mexican Summer. Cate Le Bon is such a great musician and producer as well. Usually whenever I see her name tied to an album, I'm excited to listen to it. And she says that this album, its creation is led by pure emotion. Michelangelo Dying usurped the album she thought she was making. The product of all-consuming heartache, her feelings overrode her reluctance to write an album about love, and in the process became a kind of exorcism. Sounds exciting. So the first track is called the first track to be taken from the album is called Heaven Is No Feeling. And again, people can get that at Bandcamp, catelebon.bandcamp.com. What other news? Madra Salic, tell me about them, Cíara.
Yeah, so I have my one piece of news that I contribute to this week's podcast, and it's Madra Salic announced today that they're supporting Kim Deal in Vicar Street on June 16th, which is a huge support. Kim Deal, I think, is 70 or in her 70s, and she's just released her first solo album, and it's amazing. Like, it's such an excellent listen. Madra Salic are a 5-piece trad folk band from Dublin, and part made up of some of the members of Fizzy Orange, who are known for their 60s, 70s kind of rock and roll reminiscent style music. But Madra Salic, they play in the Fourth Corner every Sunday. I went to see them the day that I didn't get into Fontaines. I saw Madra Salic instead. Paul Banks is the lead singer, and it is comprised of Adam Cullen, Dara Duffy, and a couple of other members who kind of come in and float out when they're needed. They're doing kind of a similar thing to the Mary Wallopers, but I think maybe like a little bit more clean cut. They are taking like their own renditions of folk songs. They give a gorgeous rendition of Spancel Hill. I've seen them live a couple of times, and every time I've seen them, I saw them at our Whelan's Ones to Watch in January, and then I saw them at a Jameson gig in Rathmines, in Kodiak and Rathmines, a couple of months ago. And every time I've seen them, they've just gotten better and better. They're incredibly tight as a unit. They're all gorgeous musicians. So this feels like a huge deal for them. A relatively new band. They kind of only got together last year. So very exciting.
That's great. Always great to see big acts getting Irish support acts in as well. And that gig will be great. There's a lot of gigs obviously happened. We talked about festivals last week. I'm surprised. Were you looking up tickets to Primavera, late flights to Barcelona or anything like that? Primavera is on this weekend, Cíara.
Between like starting a new job and then going straight into Irish festival season, this year was not my year, but I have a lot of friends over there at the moment, so I will live vicariously through my photo memories that are coming up now from the last couple of years and through my friends. Were you tempted to hop on a last minute flight?
Every time that Primavera comes around, I'm kind of like, I'll just look up the Clash Finder and see what I think about this year's lineup. But yeah, I mean, you're not blocking all of your friends while they're over there or anything like that. No, just like, I don't want to hear anything about it. I'm trying not to think about it. Nothing like that. No.
No, it's very rainy here. We had like a very, very heavy shower today, so I'm just trying to, watch their stories and pretend. One of my friends is sitting under like an orange tree in her apartment in Barcelona, and I'm like, I can close my eyes and I can imagine, and that's the best I can do for now.
There are a lot of big gigs coming up in Dublin anyway for the next couple of weeks until we're going to talk again in a couple of weeks. Pulp are playing next Tuesday night in the Three Arena. It's in support of their new album, which is called More, which comes out on Friday. It's produced by James Ford, who people will know for producing Arctic Monkeys and generally getting like a big arena type of sound out of a band, I think. And I don't know if Pulp actually need that kind of a sound, but it's really, really interesting what they did. They say that they recorded More almost on a whim and that they finished it in 3 weeks, faster than any of the band's previous records. They had no contract, financed everything themselves, and finished nearly one song per day in the studio. They told the New York Times that the band members gave each demo a numerical ranking to determine what would make the cut, and the news organization, the New York Times, not the people need me to describe what it is. They said a downbeat atmospheric track now called My Sex scored the most points. So I guess you can take from that what you will. That's very much in keeping with Pulp, who have reunited before. They first reunited back in 2011 after breaking up after 2001's We Love Life, which was produced by Scott Walker, interestingly enough. So they reunited back in 2011 and they got together again a couple of years ago, and around that time bassist Steve Mackey passed away, so I think that kind of calibrated a few things for Jarvis Cocker and Pulp. I don't know if you'd say they got their stuff together, but they're back with a new album into their first album in over 20 years, so I'm really excited to listen to that album this weekend and next week, and maybe going to see Pulp as well. Iggy Pop is playing on Saturday as well. Do you have much interest in Iggy Pop? What do you think about when you think about Iggy Pop, Cíara?
All I think about is his BBC Radio 6 show where he kind of has done a good job in spotlighting some Irish artists, but I think I kind of missed out on the Iggy Pop wave. He was playing All Together Now, but I think I left just beforehand 2 years ago. So he's not my typical listen, but like a hero, kind of like a classic hero.
I was at that All Together Now show as well. I think it was his first Irish show in over 15 years. But I just remember it being one of the loudest festival shows that I can ever remember. And once I Want to Be Your Dog hits, you're just like, oof, it's all worth it for this. It's such a great, iconic song. He's playing Emma for In the Meadow. In the Meadow, isn't it? Yeah. So there's a great Irish lineup underneath him as well. People will remember Langham Fest last year. That was the first In the Meadows festival, and Iggy Pop is headlining. The likes of Gilla Band and The Scratch are playing as well. John Cooper Clarke too. So that'll be a great show. So two huge music legends coming to Dublin in the space of a couple of days. Okay, that's the news. Our main event this week, you wanted to talk about Mail's album, Something Soft, their second album that came out a couple of weeks ago. Interesting. Listen, it's less than 30 minutes long. Why don't you start us off, Ciara, talking about Mail?
Yeah, see, I said whale because the H is in brackets, but I'm starting to think now that it's maybe a double entendre and that it's meant to sound like male, like as in male female, because they're a feminist post-punk band, and that kind of bridges the theme of a lot of their music, most of their music, I'd say. I would say I'm a bit of an OG male fan. I've got a Ghost of Post-Punk Boy Today tote bag in my room, which I was going to actually bring it down and show you, but I forgot about it until just now. But brilliant piece of merch. You can always pick out the people, the cool people walking around with that tote bag. So in 2021, after a hiatus, I think they released their first ever single in 2015, possibly 2016, and they took a big hiatus and they came back and they released Gender Studies in 2021, which is it's kind of a bit like anarchic, it's shouty, it's frustrated, it's a lot of kind of scant drum music and a couple of chord guitars and really passionate women. Roisin Nic Earlt was the lead singer and she kind of led the band. And in 2023, they released their first album, Attachment Styles. And since then, the band has gone through a shake-up. So it's made up of a core group now of three: Constance Keane, Jamie Hyland, who has worked with the likes of Gilliband as producer, and Sean Nolan on guitar. And then they have brought in Sarah Deegan from Pixie Cut Rhythm Orchestra to play with them live and to play on the album. So this new album, Something Soft, was released via Merge Records on May 16th of this year. And they are currently on a tour of Ireland ending this evening on the day of recording, June 4th, in Whelan's with Cola and Junk Tour. So they've kind of done like a triple headliner. I think they're maybe swapping about each night of who plays first, second and third, which is a really interesting way to do a gig. I think it brings together a group of fans who, if you like Cola, you like the other two. If you like Junk Tour, you like the other two. If you like Mail, you like the other two. I think it's a really interesting way of working it. And I know, Owen, you're going to see them live tonight. They do put on a good live show. I've seen them a couple of times in the past. The latest single from this album was premiered with Hugh Stevens on his BBC Radio 6 show, and that is called DMAM. And it's basically a song about women getting unsolicited messages. There's lines, "Don't text my mother," and it's kind of the trying to basically shame people who send unsolicited messages, or messages commenting on women's bodies or appearance or actions, which makes up a lot of the themes of what they talk about. Constance Keane's voice in this, just reading from the press release, her voice occupies the space of an inner monologue narrating a tense walk home and green room misogyny from a place of droll observance. And so a lot of it is them kind of taking a step back, looking at the world, observing it, seeing how they've experienced it, and then putting that into raging music. Their music is an act of resilience, and to make Something Soft, Mail had to become especially resilient. Following on from their debut album, obviously they went through a change up in lineup, and the band essentially broke apart and found its way back together. And where many groups might have folded, they have come out stronger.
Yeah, there's so much to dig into with this band. First of all, Roisin leaving the band. She told Hot Press in 2023, although it was painful, it was also an act of kindness being asked to leave Mail. But many things can be true at once. I could know in my heart of hearts that being in the band was not right for me, and still cry bitterly about this strangest of breakups. So it is interesting, isn't it, hearing a band lose their main singer, somebody else having to step up to the plate. That happened recently enough with Black Country New Road. They've just released a new album, this extremely twee indie band who I'm not a huge fan of. They've changed their singer as well, and I think that they might have lost some fans along the way, because it is kind of like, do you lose a sense of identity when you lose something like your lead singer? But Mail haven't lost their sense of identity. I think that there's always a bit of an anger around them, and I think that there's an anger throughout this album as well, isn't there?
And I know that Constance Keane has her own side project of Fears, and she's run Tull, the record label. So it's really interesting to see her actually drumming and singing at the same time, because she's taken on a lot of the lead vocals. They obviously switch vocalists. So in the album, you can hear a couple of songs in, they change vocalists throughout, but Constance keeps the or takes on the role of lead vocalist while drumming at the same time, which I can't imagine is an easy task. But I think her own experience as a singer and as a songwriter in her own right has really helped her to blossom in that role.
Yeah, the first song is the first track I think that was released from the album. It's called Pursuit, and that came out last year. And I remember thinking it was one of the best things that I had heard last year. I love the way that the anger builds throughout it too. And yeah, like I say, you hear that anger crop up again throughout the album. Another thing that you hear throughout this album is just how online they are. I don't know, is it just Connie, the singer? Is it the whole band? Is it just all of us in general? Just a couple of notes that I had. One of the songs is called You're Temporary, but the internet is forever, which features the lyric, I still look great on the internet. There are songs about ghosting as well, talk about finding profiles on the dating app Hinge. Vin Diesel is a track on the album as well. Really dirty song. Dirty in terms of sound. It's obviously about the actor from Fast and Furious, who everybody will know, everybody will be able to picture in their head. But the spoken word bit in the song, which is almost incomprehensible, is taken from something that he posted on Facebook when the last Fast and Furious movie wrapped. So they're very online. It made me think of, I don't know if you've come across this interview with Stevie Nicks. I think it was in Rolling Stone, and she's talking about Katy Perry. Do you know this,
No,
the
I don't
story?
think I'm aware. No.
So Stevie Nicks is asked, is there internet on your phone? She says, it isn't connected. It's just a camera. The interviewee says, I'm envious of that. And then Stevie Nicks says, I hate it. About 10 years ago, Katy Perry was talking to me about the internet armies of all the girl singers and how cruel and rancid they were. I said, well, I wouldn't know because I'm not on the internet. She said, so who are your rivals? I just looked at her. It was my steely look. I said, Katie, I don't have rivals. I have friends. All the other women singers that I know are friends. Nobody's competing. Get off the internet and you won't have rivals either. First of all, great story. Obviously, Stevie Nicks, amazing. Amazing that
I
she's
do
telling
actually.
Katy
I
Perry
have
that
actually,
as
yeah,
well.
have read that.
But I do kind of wonder if maybe Mail turned off the internet. Maybe if they weren't so online, what kind of an album we had, because lyrically it is kind of like, okay, now they're talking about Hinge again. It kind of loses me a little bit. Musically, I like the album. It's very post-punk. Jamie Hyland is the bassist and produced the album. A lot of people will know that that's Jamie from Holding Hands with Jamie from Gilliband's first album, who it's named after. So there is a big Gilliband connection here as well. Derek Kiley, the lead singer of Gilliband, lends his vocals to Clementine. You almost wouldn't know it though, because he's buried really deep in the mix. I only saw that tidbit and then I listened out for it and I was like, oh yeah, there he is. So yeah, overall, I think it's an okay album, but a 30 minutes long, I'm surprised that by the end of it, the last song, Coda, which is 4 minutes long, there's not really much lyrics on that. There's a couple of howls on it. Kind of feels like, this sounds so bad, but it kind of feels like they've run out of ideas a little bit. I was kind of like, kind of peters out a little bit. And then that penultimate song, 1-800 Call Me Back, do you find that that is the most irritating sound that you've heard on
The
an album
introduction to
all
the
year?
song. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Just that guitar sound, or I don't know, is it a phone that is making those
I
dial
don't
sounds throughout?
know. I don't know. No, I'd say it's a guitar,
I
but
find it
maybe
so
with some.
irritating, Ciara. I
Yeah,
can't tell you how much
I
I.
was listening to it this morning, like on a walk, and I was like, maybe I'll just skip this one. But I was like, no, I have to be there. I have to listen to the whole thing. I know Clementine as well is definitely an old song, because I remember hearing that years ago. I don't know if it was one that they'd like released and then unreleased and then released again and kind of saved up for this album. But it was definitely out years ago, but I couldn't find it on Spotify.
How do you feel about it overall? I think that you probably enjoy it a little bit more than I do.
Pursuit really gripped me from the start. That I just love that song and I've been listening to it so much. I think it has its peaks and troughs. I think some songs stand out. DMAM is kind of growing on me. It took a couple of listens and I really enjoy Clementine, but some of the other songs fell a little bit flat for me. So I'd probably give it like a 3, 3.5.
Ooh, I didn't know that we were going to rate the album. Oh, I love it.
And
I
neither
love
did
it.
I until it came out of my mouth there.
Yeah, I'll give it a 2.5. A six out of 10.
That's okay.
Connie is the drummer and singer. She told the Bad Arts, that's Sarah Hederman's Substack page. I would highly recommend reading an interview that she did with Mail, talking through some of the inspirations behind the album. She was talking about how she drums and her approach to it. She says that I really like having quite a minimalist approach to how I play my instrument. I started playing the drums when I was younger with a normal drum kit setup. When I was 16, I wanted to see what would happen if I got rid of half the kit to see where that pushed my brain to go. I often wonder if it's an extension of how I write lyrics. That's been on my mind a lot around this album because I think my lyrics are quite direct and not particularly flowery, and I think my drumming also falls into that category. And Connie is bang on there. The lyrics on this album, particularly Pursuit, are just incredibly direct. There's no skirting around the issues on this record. Really, really interesting album. I enjoyed that. I enjoy, maybe this is like an album club that we'll start doing, Ciara.
Maybe, yeah, just pick an album a week and have a little deep dive into it, see what we think. I haven't done album reviews for like any publications in a long time, and I used to love it, so I think bring back the album reviews.
You need an outlet.
Yeah, I do. Just screaming into the void of my head here.
Well, there's a lot of albums coming out between now and when we're talking again in a couple
Huge
of weeks.
amount.
Just recently, Caroline, an 8-piece from London, released their second album. It's called Caroline 2. I've been getting a lot of really positive reviews, as in we're close to album of the year territory with Caroline 2. It's one of those albums where I press play and I'm like, I do not like this at all. But then you keep seeing everybody being so positive about it. All of the like great reviewers, great writers and critics you hear talking about it, and nobody has a bad word to say about it. So it did kind of break me down, and I have kept listening over the past week. And yeah, there's a lot to dig into on that album. Caroline Polachek has a star turn on one of the tracks as well. So I would recommend people check out Caroline 2 if they want to keep up with what might well be the album of the year. There's a lot of stuff coming out in the next couple of weeks. I'll just run through a couple of acts that I have on my list. Maybe we'll pick out an album and we might talk about that a little bit in depth as well. Keep these creative juices flowing, Ciara. 39th and Main are a 2-piece dance act from Ireland. They release, I think it's their debut album, Happy Tears, on the 13th of June. Viral pop sensation Addison Rae, no relation of Tate McRae, releases her album Addison this Friday, June 5th. 6th. Cian Kavanagh releases his debut album, The County Star. I'm hopefully talking to Cian for next week's episode of The Point of Everything. So if people would like to listen to that, I would highly recommend it. It sounds so great. It sounds so different to what Cian Kavanagh, kind of an indie boy, has made before. It sounds very big. I'm looking forward to talking to him about it and figuring out, is it a concept album? Is it a comedy album? Is it a ga album? I'm not 100% sure what exactly it is, but it's called The County Star and it's out on Friday. King Gizzard and the Lizard I knew I'd mess it up. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard release their latest album, Phantom Island. They're a band who I find impossible to keep up with because there's a
Is
new
this
album.
200th album or something?
Yeah, I think 200 is about
50,
right, yeah.
50th member.
Did you see them a couple of years ago at Primavera? Yeah?
Yeah, I saw them twice and I got COVID at it. And I was like, you know what? The whole festival, it was worth having COVID the whole festival. Haven't seen them. It was unbelievable. They don't play the same set twice. I don't think they do like the same song twice in like 2 different sets if they're doing a couple of sets. I think they maybe switched half of their members. There was probably about 15 of them on stage. It was insane, but it was incredible. It was one of the most fun gigs I've ever been to.
Wow. So are you a fan? So are you looking forward to this new album, Phantom Island?
I barely listened to them before, barely listened to them after, but that moment when I was in the room with them twice was incredible. I probably will give it a listen, but it is like it's a constant turnover, like constant album machine, constant new members. It's crazy.
Little Sims releases her sixth studio album Lotus on Friday. It sounds like that's going to be a big 5-star album. I mentioned Album of the Year for Caroline. I think Little Sims might well be in the running for that. Marina and the Diamonds releases Princess of Power. It's actually just Marina this time. I kind of a fan of Marina and the Diamonds going back 15 years to that debut album, and I really like the singles that she's released. I mean, we mentioned I ruined it there. We mentioned Primavera earlier. Chapel Roan is one of the headliners at Primavera this year, and I just think Marina walked so Chapel Roan could run. I got to say, whew. I wasn't sure if I could nail it there. So I'm really looking forward to that. And Pulp's new album is out on Friday. There's an American hardcore band who are no longer hardcore called Turnstile, who released their new album Never Enough on Friday. They're from Baltimore. It's the follow-up to an album called Glow On that a lot of people loved from 2021. And it sounds like this might be the next great American rock band, but obviously people not happy that they're no longer hardcore. And another musician who's got an album coming out in the next 2 weeks is Van Morrison, called Remembering Now. Hopefully that's not a COVID reaction album like his last record. He's going to be...
Who knows what Van Morrison's going to come out with? Who knows?
I've kind of been on a small Van Morrison kick over the past year. Not the COVID album. I actually haven't listened to it, but maybe.
No,
he supported...
Massive Van Morrison fan growing up, like hugely so, but...
He's supporting Neil Young in Malahide Castle in a couple of weeks. And just like that, we've gotten to the last segment of the show, Cíara. We have a couple of recommendations for people. Why don't you go first with your pick?
So mine is great Cork band, emerging Cork band, Clifford's, with their latest single, My Favourite Monster, which came out last week. They are a 4-piece headed by Iona, who just has absolutely gorgeous vocals. They're such passionate people. I got to interview them at Other Voices in 2024. The Thin Air did just a bit of a Q&A with them in Dick Mac's pub, just out the back. And they just seem so excited by all of the opportunities they're getting. They went on tour of the UK with Bold Love, so they're just off the back of that, and they played Forbidden Fruit last week. So I think it's only up for Clifford's, and I love everything they've done so far. Iona's voice is silky. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous to listen to.
Yeah, you can feel like this song is going to do a lot for Clifford's going forward, but they've kind of hit every marker along the road so far. So yeah, that's a great shout. My pick is from further afield. It's a band called Florrie from Philadelphia. They're a 7-piece. I mean, I mentioned Caroline being an 8-piece. This is a 7-piece whose album sounds like I have been banging all weekend. It's the first song in particular that is my recommendation. It's called First It Was a Movie, Then It Was a Book, and it's just a country rock epic. It goes on for over 6 minutes. It's got a couple of guitar solos in there. If you like MJ Lenderman, I think you're going to really, really like this song. It is so good. I could just listen to it on repeat for the rest of the year, and I think that I would be happy, Cíara. We didn't pick an album to talk about next week. Do you want to look back at the list and pick an album to talk about?
Is it cheating to talk about Cian Kavanagh's new album if you're interviewing him
Yeah,
next
we
week?
can.
I'm really excited about it. And I
Well,
think after hearing your interview with him, there might be more to talk about.
Yeah, I probably won't badmouth it if I am talking about him, but I wouldn't badmouth it anyway. I only talk to people that I like, whose music I enjoy on the podcast, and I just think that the County Star is a really, really great album. So yeah, let's talk about that in a couple of weeks. Hopefully now I'll stick to my schedule and have Cian Kavanagh on the show next week as well. Okay. We got through that. We got through it in less time than last week. Thanks a lot, Cíara. Busy time for both of us. Coming up, we might talk again in 2 weeks post Beyond the Pale weekend, which I think you're going to, which I'm sure that you're excited about. First proper festival of the summer for you.
Yeah, no, that sounds perfect. I'm so excited to jump into festival season.
Great. Well, thanks for the chat. And yeah, we'll talk to everybody next week. Thanks for listening. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Just search for The Point of Everything. But maybe I should have done that at the start of the show. Okay. On that note, thanks a lot, Cíara.
Thanks so much.